Hey, what's going on? Today, we're going to be taking a look at Aero Precision's M4E1 build that I just did. Finally got it done, and we're going to do an in-depth look at this. I'm going to break it down for you, what it cost me to put it together, including the upgrades and the accessories, and I'm going to tell you how it performed on the range. I did take it out to the range for a couple of sessions and kind of ran it kind of hard. Put about 300 rounds through it. I know that's pretty modest for a lot of YouTube rifle tests and things like that, but I think it's an honest, practical test for it, and it's what I can afford. So this is not a sponsored video. Everything on this rifle was sourced by myself, to include the ammo. So there you go. Besides, I got another build. I'm gonna show you right here. I got to get to this one. This is a ballistic advantage build that is done, and it's not been fired yet. So I got a scope review. I've got parts and all kinds of stuff to get on that one. So. Also, we're going to look at the aftermath of those couple of range sessions, a couple of interesting things I found out about this rifle you're going to want to know before you build one. So appreciate you guys checking out the channel. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So first thing that we'll talk about is cost. Now, for some reason, a lot of people will refer to Aero as kind of a budget build. A good budget build needs to be under $800, maybe in that $600–700 range in my mind to be kind of an entry-level budget build. I guess in theory everything's kind of a budget build, but this is more of probably a mid-tier build just because everything that I have on this rifle right now, barring the accessories, we got about $1,000 into the rifle. I would be really careful with your build with these, because if you start going above that, maybe you get into spending about $1,200 on your build or more. You might get into the Bravo company territory, a few $100s more, and you're looking at like a Daniel Defense. I think $800 to $1,000 is reasonable cost for an Aero Precision rifle. So getting into the parts, receiver set, of course, is the M4E1 receiver set in flat dark earth. This has the no forward assist. Now, when I initially bought this, I didn't realize that when I bought it, I made a mistake. Not a big deal. But this upper receiver, and the reason why that's done that way, it has to do with the new Thunder Ranch rifle that is partnered with Aero Precision. They've got an upper, they've got a lower. I did not get that lower. It was actually sold in a set like this. And actually, I like it. It's okay. I will tell you that during the break-in period that I actually had a failure to feed, and I went for that, and it wasn't there, and it kind of threw me off for a minute. So all you guys that say, hey, I prefer the forward assist, yeah, it is a little bit of a muscle reflex thing there. Of course, the handguard is the Aero Atlas M4, good Lord, the Aero Atlas R1, not the S1. The R1 is going to give you the full rail. And this is a 15-inch handguard in flat dark earth, and it is mlok. I did purchase the receiver set and the handguard separate, and they did match up pretty well if you're concerned about those. And if you're interested in a little bit more detail about this receiver set and handguard, I did a separate video, so I'll put up here, and I go a little bit more in depth about this receiver set and handguard. Now, what I will tell you, the M4E1 receivers are very easy to install. If you're new to building, this is probably the way I'd recommend you go, because you don't have to use roll pins and punches, hammer and punch. With a standard milspec receiver, you're going to be putting pins in down here, pins back here on the bolt release, and of course if you got a forward assist, you'll have a pin up here. And if you go with the M4E1 set, they're all screws, so not a big deal. So the only pins I had to punch in were up here on the gas block, and that's pretty cool. So really easy to install, and it's a really good looking set. So as far as the lower parts kit, I've got an M4E1 lower parts kit from Aero Precision, and yes, M4E1, they have a specific one for this lower. I would recommend you get that one. You can get it with the fire control group or without. If you get without the fire control group, that means you have no trigger. So if you want the trigger, this one, I got just the milspec standard trigger. I got everything, comes with the safety, everything you need to put the lower together, including the grip. You got a few grip options. I went with the Magpul MOE FDE grip. Very similar to a standard milspec. Set up here, 90-degree throw. We don't have ambies or nothing like that on it. Just really standard on that, okay? The safety selector is a little bit longer. At least it feels that way compared to a milspec safety selector. We've got a standard Aero Precision buffer set, and that will get you your back plate, castle nut, extension, spring, and carbine buffer. So really everything's just milspec there, nothing real fancy. And then we've got an Aero Precision nitride bolt carrier group. It's got a 9310 bolt and it has been high pressure tested or magnetic particle inspected. Now as far as upgrades, we'll go from the rear. I do have a CTR stock on here. I'm sure you guys have seen these before. This is about a $20 upgrade over an MOE stock. And what that's going to get you is you can actually lock the stock down. So as you can see, a normal MOE stock, you're going to get some movement, some vibration. Some guys, that doesn't matter. But you can actually lock it down with the CTR, and it takes that movement out of there, as you can see. No rattle, and just to undo it, all right, just like that. And you can lock it in place. We also get a couple of QD points for your sling. It works on both sides, so a nice little upgrade for $20 over just a standard MOE. Next, we have the Magpul QD backplate. And this is really nice if you want to run a QD point. You're looking at about a $30 purchase onto your rifle if you're going to do that. So if you don't really need it, just the standard backplate that comes with the kit is just fine. But I do like those quite a bit, and I put them on several of my builds. The next one is we've got the Ballistic Advantage Hansen Performance Series barrel. This is a 16-inch 5.56 1-7 twist barrel. It's nitride or QPQ treated. It has a mid-length gas system, and it's a chromoly vanadium steel. So it's a 4150 chromoly vanadium steel, which is really durable, and that's a mil-spec steel. It's not hammer forged, it is button rifled. If you go with the Hansen, what you're going to get is you're going to get a nickel boron barrel extension, which makes the cleanup down there in the chamber a little bit easier. You're going to get a pinned gas block, which I do recommend. That is, it comes with the barrel, so you can get the gas block, and it's going to be pinned to the barrel, and that ensures that the alignment stays there, so I do prefer that. You're going to get Hansen's barrel profile, which looks similar to a pencil barrel, but their claim to fame is it's a show-rose design that reduces recoil because you have less flat surfaces. And then, of course, it is magnetic particle inspected and high pressure tested. I did a separate review on this barrel. If you're interested, you can check that one up. I'll post that link right up there. And to get that barrel, you're looking at about a $50 upcharge to go into this barrel. I will note that you can find good deals. You might be able to get the whole barrel for about $180. I have sourced these barrels at that price before, so just keep that in mind. I would look for those barrels. If you're interested, you'll be glad that you did. The brake is the VG6 Gamma 556. This is a 2-chamber brake, and it puts out a hell of a percussive blast. But what I can tell you is between the barrel and the brake, this makes for a very soft shooting rifle, and follow-up shots are going to be very quick, which you'll see coming up in the video. This is looking at about a $50 upgrade to get into this. You can get just an A2 flash hider that comes normal on upper receivers. If you get an Aero upper, a lot of them are going to have just that standard A2. And then finally, we've got the Rise Armament extended latch charging handle. You can get just a standard M16 style charging handle. I decided I wanted to upgrade it, just customize the rifle a little bit. So I went with this one. Great price, 25 bucks for it. So you're looking about $10 more to go with something like this. Of course, Aero does have their own proprietary double latched charging handles. But I chose this one. I actually saved a little bit of money doing that. So as far as accessories, we've got red dot. Really, you could put a red dot on a rifle like this for under $200 and get you a really good deal. This one is actually the primary arms. This is their MD06. This is their Gen 2. I've had this thing forever, and it's been on so many different rifles. I've broken the bases on them a couple times. So it has the Midwest Industries lower 1/3 mount on it. This is their latchless version, and it's a really solid mount. It's not going anywhere. And I really just like this. It's really simple. We got a knob here, a turret, just to turn it on. No buttons, no modes to worry about. It's just really simple, and it does the job. And I've got no complaints. So a nice little investment, really combined with the two, the base and the sight. Of course, you can't get this one, but you can get like Prime Arms SLX for about 150 bucks. With the base, you're looking at about $200. Of course, you can go and look at Holliston or something like that and be in that $150 to $200 range. Of course, if you want to go out and spend $600-700 on a red dot, have at it, but I'm not going to do that. So the backup sights are UTG Pro. All right. And these dudes are fantastic value. They're 6061 aluminum, and they're anodized black, and they're pretty solid. I've got no complaints for something that I really don't use. And I don't want to spend $150 on a set of something that I'm not going to use. It just is what it is. I put them on there because I want to, and these are great values. Of course, you can go with Magpul M-Bus, but I think these are actually, I prefer these better. They're just nicer quality, and I like the fact that they're actually made of aluminum, and they're really solid. So we've got a Streamlight ProTac Mount 2 light. This is the one with the 2 batteries. This one's a 650 lumen. Of course, they do up to 1,000, and I think 1,200. But these are nice little lights, and you're going to get a tape switch that comes with it. The grip that I use here is the Magpul R. What is that? The RVG. This is just a Picatinny mount. It comes with a small accessory rail, but I opted to go with the larger accessory rail, so I just got to separate and get them from Magpul or whoever you want to get them from. And the reason why I do that is because where I actually put my vertical grip can interfere with the gas block, especially if you have a carbine length gas system or a mid-length gas system. So by using the longer accessory rail, it gives me a little bit more option to actually mount the vertical grip in and around the gas block where my hand's naturally going to go, and also it gives me a little bit of heat protection. So I'd recommend just grabbing that and setting that your rifle up that way. We got some Magpul grip panels just to help us reduce the amount of heat so we can hold on to the rifle, and I got a couple of extra little UTG ones here. No big deal. And then I've got a little UTG mlok QD mount that I put up here. So this will accept any kind of QD sling mount. And these are really solid. You're looking at about 12 bucks for one of these. And you can get them in flat dark earth. And what I like about them, very well made from UTG. And they have stainless steel T-nuts. So very solid setup. And I like that because the retention can be a little bit tighter when I actually connect up here. And then have the rear of the sling back on the stock, and that keeps it nice and tight and close to the body at a slight angle. So I do prefer that on my setup. So that's just how I set mine up. So as I mentioned, we did a couple of range sessions with this, about 300 rounds that I put through the rifle. And now I start my new builds with a single load, single fire. So I will actually load a magazine with a single round. I will chamber it, fire, make sure the round fires, and the bolt locks back to the rear. No problems there. And then we moved on to, I will load 3. Same thing, I will fire the 3 at a slow cadence, make sure that locks back to the rear and there's no issues. I also inspect the brass for high pressure signs and things like that. And then just take once to look over the rifle to make sure if anything is out of place. At that point, I went ahead and zeroed the rifle, zeroed it at 25 yards and did an offset zero to simulate a 36 yard zero because the range I was at did not have a 36 yard berm. No big deal there. And no problems. Got it zeroed in without any hiccups. From there, I started working in a few short bursts and some controlled pairs. At that point is really where I think the BG6 brake and the barrel really started to shine. You notice that it's a very soft shooting rifle and the follow-up shots come very quickly and just very flat and very fast on the nose. So I started really kind of getting excited about the rifle at that point once we really started getting it kind of moving. Next, I had the pleasure of going out to the Bear Arms gun range in Noblesville, Indiana, where I actually turned the heat up on the rifle a little bit. And my goal was to see if I can reduce any kind of failures or failure to fire with the rifle. So same thing, started out with just some easy controlled pairs, going through, doing a couple magazine changes, no big deal. Then started working my way up to some heavier rates of fire, some heavier bursts. And then I did a mag dump. You notice that my rate of fire slows down because it's a milspec trigger, so your finger, will actually start to get tired and your rate of fire will slow down. So if you notice that it is throwing brass at the 430 position, which is really awesome. It's where it should be. And as the rifle starts to heat up, you see that brass starting to move forward. That is normal, but it functioned fire up to that point, no issues. And then after that, I had my first failure, and that failure was just simply, I had 2 rounds that failed to fire. So the good thing, I guess, is I couldn't reproduce the failure. So it's one of two things. It was an issue with the rifle or an issue with ammunition. Now, what I will tell you is when I got to that point, I was dipping into some older stock of some reload that's probably 5 or 6 years old. So sometimes, you know, primers can potentially not be fully seated, and when they're hit with the firing pin hits them, they can seat the primer, and it causes a failure to fire. So when you rechamber it, it'll fire. That's a possibility, but usually when you see that, it's more sporadic through the entire batch of ammo, and I only had 2 and they were back to back. It is possible that for whatever reason the velocity on the hammer just slowed down. It just was not given enough energy to strike the primer. But like I said, I tried to reproduce it. I could not. So it could be the ammunition. Just maybe I had about a couple bad rounds, or it could be, you know, just the rifle breaking in. Those are the only 2 failures that I could produce out of that run. So, okay, so looking at the aftermath after all that, well, I tell you, the muzzle brake did turn off axis a little bit. So I don't know how well you guys can see that, but it's slightly off axis. And I think because of when I installed the brake, I only did about a half turn. And I think really when you install a brake or device, you need about 3/4 to a turn and a half. So this one only had about a 180-degree turn. And under that 300 rounds, it's managed to move itself a little bit. So this is going to be taken off. I'm going to put a new crush washer on it, and I'm going to torque that muzzle device down, and hopefully that thing doesn't move again, so we'll keep an eye on it. Now here's something interesting. The buffer spring actually warped, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's because this is potentially overgassed, there's too much mass, maybe there's an issue with the spring. I don't know what caused it. I don't. Any of you guys that are familiar with this know what causes that, but it did do that. And then the buffer itself had a little bit of scratches. That's not uncommon, but I feel like it's a little excessive for about 300 rounds. The castle nut, which is not staked in place, did stay in place, stay where it is, where it should be. And I can confirm that because I did mark it with a permanent marker to see, and this is what I do with my builds, to see if I see any movement, and there's no seeable movement there, so I'm pretty confident that shouldn't have any problems with the castle nut. Of course, gas block stayed in place, no issues. The nickel boron extension did make chamber cleanup very easy, and the Cerekote finish is very nice, but if you start moving and attaching things to it, you're going to mar it up and scratch it. Anodization just seems to be a little bit more durable than Cerekote, unfortunately. Overall, outside of the 2 failures to fire and the weird warped buffer spring, it performed really well. I am going to investigate the buffer spring. I am going to investigate that buffer spring because I think that's a little weird. I've not seen that before, and I'm just curious at this point as to what's causing it. I'll make sure that I'm not doing something with my build that's causing excessive wear. Could just be a bad buffer spring, I don't know. Other than that, I think it's a great rifle. It's a lot of fun to shoot. It looks good, and it didn't necessarily break the bank, even with the upgrades that I chose for the rifle. So anyway, that's it. I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.